What up, Twitch? We are live. Got a good one for you today. We are doing the MSBA Coaches Lounge with the coach of the Newbark United. First time for everything for him and I, so let's get after it. All right, you ready, Jacob?
You betcha, bud.
All right. Let's share this music.
All right, so I figure we'll just jump right in. Because Mitch was out of the state this past week, he didn't get a chance to catch the battles. So we're gonna kind of skip that. If anybody's interested, you can just look at the battle listing, or hopefully you already watched them live, so you don't need our runbacks on that. So we figured we'd start by jumping straight into the transactions. This week there has been only 2 so far. There is still a period of time until I think it's tomorrow at noon, where people
Yes.
could make some more transactions. I intend to personally. I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but for the time being, we only have 2 so far, so we figure we'll start our coverage there, and then kind of take a look at this week's matchups one by one. So to start, we see the Vermilion Venusaurs dropping Excadrill for Hattering. So if we want to take a look at Vermilion Venusaur's team, I guess, what do you think that does for him, Mitch?
That's the only thing I can say right now is that's absolutely wild that he drops Excadrill, who is consistently a championship team member in week one. Absolutely crazy. All right,
Well, I think
so
it's important. So if you want to pull up his team, Mitch, I think it might help give
let's go there.
a
So
little bit
we're
of
looking
kind of
at
context.
so
So
he's
picking
got
up Hatterene
yep.
does pair well with Indeedee Female with Psychic
Where's his
Surge.
yep.
However, it seems like with Reniculus, he kind of already had.
It seems redundant. Like,
Yeah, it does feel redundant. It's another
hey
psychic
Fuku,
type.
what up? Yes, you did get an ad on the Coaches Lounge this time.
It gives him his
Coach's
third
Lounge is
psychic
legit.
type,
Yeah, that is 3 psychics.
which feels very
One,
psychic heavy,
two,
especially given Reniculus and
3.
Hatterene can kind of fill similar roles.
Right.
And I could see potential if he wants to try to use Hatterene to run a little bit more of a Trick Room heavy team, which is possible with Regirock or Torkoal.
Yeah.
And then, well, even with Reniculus, Reniculus is already just about the same speed as Hatterene. So it's kind of tough seeing what new options that gives him right now, but maybe this is
Right.
part of a longer term plan.
Yeah,
Like he
maybe
could
it's
be looking to drop Reniculus for something else in the future here.
it might be the long con, but I mean just for this week it seems he's very psychic heavy, which
Yeah.
we'll check against who he's playing with. That might be a detriment, but I mean, looking at the rest of his team, if he makes like I just don't see the point of Reuniclus and Hatterene on the same team.
It is tough to see. I will say, having used Hatterene personally to take a championship win, it's a strong mon, especially with its magic bounce.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot of potential to do great setup. It has pretty solid defensive stats. Obviously, it is lacking in HP,
Right.
so you kind of got to make sure it's going to be able to take the hit with its 29 speed if you want to try to use it to set up Trick Room. No, Dom, we are skipping last week since Mitch was not here to see the battles. So
Yeah,
we
I didn't
figured
see
we'd
any of the
just jump
battles.
into transactions and look at the coming week's matchups.
And I used Reuniclus last season, and he's more. I think he was pretty mid tier. He did what I needed him to do, but he's bulky. Like he is
He is a
thick.
luxury ball mon, so that does make sense for Uniculus.
Yeah.
He's kind of that third tier of power.
Yeah.
All right, so I think maybe we take a look at this next, the last transaction so far.
So it looks
The
like
Evergrande X Clouds
they
dropping
dropped.
Alolan Sand Slash, a personal favorite mon of mine, even though I've never used it in any sense.
It's
For
all right.
Beartic.
I mean,
So
it's
looks like,
that's basically 1-to-1 on typing. So
yeah, it definitely is a 1-to-1 on typing.
I see more use out of Beartic than I have. It's also Beartic has a championship ring
That is true.
versus Alolan Sand Slash. So I do see like he is better for hail and rain. So
Yeah, it does.
because
I mean, their abilities are almost the exact same between Alolan Ninetales, or Ninetales, Alolan Sand Slash,
does
and
Sand Slash get Swift Swim?
Not Swift Swim, but it gets Slush Rush and Snow Cloak.
Okay, so he's adding another option for his team,
Yeah.
which makes sense, especially with how many. He's got a.
Yeah, I mean, he has Alolan Ninetales to set up
Everything he
Hail.
needs.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be a pretty easy combo for him. Alolan Ninetales and Beartic to get the Hail
Right.
set up, and then Beartic to benefit from it. And Beartic's speed is just high. Well, it is high enough that speed doubling would be
A problem for most people.
outspeed most mons if built for it.
Yeah.
And with an attack of 130, he can kind of do some damage with that.
That
so
is
it does
very
kind of
true.
commit Noah to a little bit more attack heavy of a team.
And
he has a few strong special attackers, but he's definitely leaning towards physical currently on his team.
yeah, which is I think slightly different than how he played last season. Last season it really felt like he was since he doesn't have Comfey this year. And that was like his healer and really felt like he could just wall up with. Did he grab Lapras again? No, he did not grab Lapras.
No,
but
he has
did.
Tapu Fini this year, which apparently is super good for a supporting mon or stall mon. I've never seen it used because I don't follow competitive Pokemon.
This is true. We don't follow it. Okay.
But yeah,
all right.
So, I mean, we'll have to see how he does with it. Obviously, it's just a great ball move, so it isn't quite as impactful as the Vermilion Venusaur's Master Ball trade.
Right.
But there's definitely potential with Beartic to be a bit of a threat. With
yeah,
that
I do think Beartic will be a better fit versus Sandslash.
That's fair. All right. So I think from this point we'll kind of take a look at the
jump into the matchups.
Yep.
All right.
So we'll just go top down from the schedule.
All right, and that was who do we have?
It is the New Orleans Pelipers versus the Galarian Gallades.
All right. And
then you could probably sort them by tier as well, just so we have a good idea of the
sort by
tier matchups.
All right. Okay.
So I guess, do you have any initial thoughts before we get a chance to kind of deep dive into any of the type matchups or abilities?
Well, for one, nobody's seen how this Blake's team is gonna, or the Galarian Gallades team is gonna go yet, since him and I have to battle tomorrow at 11. So
yeah, we got to see an initial debut.
So just looking at it, I can see a lot of problems coming out of that Glastrier from the New Orleans Pelipers.
He did show it was rather effective in previous week's match too. I mean,
yeah, like
it's slow.
It's slow, but that is a bulky Pokemon.
It is a freight train of a Pokemon.
Because I was using that in my Road to Master Ball, and that was a solid hit every time. Rarely did I feel like, oh no, I shouldn't have used him.
Yeah, but especially between the slow, hard-hitting Glastrier and Pheromosa's equally hard-hitting but fast. His lead can kind of dictate if he wants to run a faster setup or if he wants to more run a Trick Room team.
Does he even have a Trick Room setter? I don't think Cursula can learn
he has Dusclops. So.
Oh, yep, he does have the Dusclops. So there is that.
One of the greatest Trick Room setters.
I think the greatest Trick Room setters Mimikyu.
Maybe. It feels like they're both weak to Taunt, obviously. But that can be averted with just, I think, a White Herb or whatever it is. So
White Herb.
If he wants
might
to
not be. White Herb resets negative stats. No. It's
there's something that shakes off.
Yeah, I think it's another herb that does it.
If Justin really wants to set a Trick Room, I don't know if the Galarian Gallades have anything to stop him, frankly. But looking at the Galarian Gallades, they do have Tyrantrum. We saw a bit of a cheeky strategy with Head Smash out of him last season by the New Orleans Pelipers.
Right.
So that's a bit of an interesting coming home game there. And then Charizard Rotom Wash gives him pretty good move coverage out of his Master Ball tier.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little lacking in offensive pressure compared to the Glastrier, but given the Pelipper's Dusclops is secondary Master Ball.
Does he have a G Max this season? Do any of these guys G Max? I know Charizard does, but did he claim Charizard as his G Max?
I guess I'm assuming he is G-maxed because there's really no reason for him to not take it G-maxed.
Right. Hey, Clairvoyant TV, thanks for the resub.
Um, and then, so I guess kind of looking at some type matchups here. I'm scrolling a little down. Let's see here. The New Orleans Pelipper's kind of biggest weakness is steel,
But
which does cover glass barrier. He doesn't have a lot of great defensive counters to some steel types. He does have Rhyperior, which would be a huge threat to a steel type.
Yeah, steel. But how much? But how much steel is?
The Galarian Gallades don't have any steel running out of them.
No, and I don't think. Let's see. Galarian Zapdos, I don't believe it learns a steel type move. The only ones I could probably see learning a steel type move would be Tyrantrum and Gastrodon, and that'd be like Heavy Smash or Iron Head. Yeah. So if you ran Iron Head, Tyrantrum might be good.
That would be scary. Charizard has some favorable matchups in Glastrier and Scrafty and Pheromosa with its Fire Flying type matchups, but obviously Glastrier can hit Charizard back pretty hard.
Yes, he can.
Nice. So I guess maybe do we see any predictions here? It looks like they both got a pretty good mix of kind of some supporting mons and then some of the clear heavy hitters.
So I mean, this like overall, this looks pretty even, like across the board. There's no like definite like he has too many of this type versus that type. Like across the board, I think it's pretty easy or even. But I think it'll really depend on how Blake and my first game go. Because if I feel like if he loses, he'll be hungrier for the win versus Justin. But as of right now, I think Justin would probably win 2-1.
So what do you think? You got Justin taking 2 games to 0, 2 games to 1?
2-1. I think Blake will get one. At least Blake will at minimum get 1 game. I think Justin will win it though, because we've been clowning Justin for basically 2 years.
And Justin definitely has a bit of a chip on his shoulder this season around. It feels like
yes, he does. He's confident this season. I'm excited for it.
A brief correction: Alcremie on the Galarian Gallades does also have a D-Max. So
it
I guess
does.
It's unclear if it's Charizard or Alcremie. I don't remember if he assigned one.
I don't know if he's declared it yet, and I could have missed it while I was gone. But all right.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a lot of the pressure comes down to it seems like Justin has the advantage if it comes down to a Trick Room setup.
Agreed.
And then, apart from Pheromosa, it seems like Galarian Gallades would have the speed advantage. So I think it kind of depends on how the Galarian Gallades can potentially shut down a Trick Room option out of the New Orleans Pelipers. And I think they have
Toxicroak
Pokemon capable of doing it.
I think he has a few
users.
He's got, I don't know, he probably has a fake out user.
Yeah, he has a couple fake. He has one fake out user in Toxicroak, which seems like it might see some use.
Thank you, Dom. So his G-Max is Charizard. So he's got the G-Max flare or whatever for the fire tick damage.
So Blake had a really good season last season. I think he kind of got knocked out a little unexpectedly in the playoffs.
Right.
I'm expecting Blake to take this one.
Okay.
Maybe 2. I think it'll still be 2 games to 1. I think Blake has a lot of Pokemon knowledge, and I think he has flexibility. I think he's willing to be a little more flexible with it, and I think that Justin might try to rush the win, and that might leave a bit of a door open for Blake.
Right.
But like I said, if Justin can get the Trick Room off, it doesn't seem like the Galarian Gallades have a lot of options to try to stall out the Trick Room. But Charizard is a pretty large threat.
So you think Blake's got it 2-0?
I think Blake takes it 2-1.
2-1?
I think 2-1.
All right, I'm just writing these down.
Oh,
All
I can't
right.
wait to be all wrong on all of these.
I know we are so gonna be wrong. Every game we're gonna be wrong. All right.
All
What's the
right.
next
So
matchup?
the Vermilion Venusaurs versus the Blackthorn City Breloons.
All right. Submit by tier. Okay. Okay. Let's look at this. Oh man.
So I mean, initial thoughts out of me. Incineroar's a fucking problem,
Yep.
but I don't think Incineroar is very threatening to Fuku's team. I don't think too many of his Mon are too attack heavy, and Regirock has clear body. So I don't think Incineroar is as threatening to the Vermilion Venusaurs as someone might initially expect. But that doesn't mean to say Incineroar can't still cause problems with Parting Shot as well as
Fake out.
yeah.
Could be a strong fake out lead, then parting shots turn 2.
Yeah. So I think that gives him potential. I still don't think that gives a great counter to Regirock, but I think with Mamoswine,
Or even Tentacruel or Gyarados could take out Regirock.
wow, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, he's got Tentacruel. He's got Gyarados. And if he is gonna run, if his plan is going like, it's looking like the Trick Room route with all these psychic types. You got Torque. You got out of the Vermilion Venusaur's team. You've got Torkoal and Regirock. Water type's gonna put him down.
Yeah, it does look like it's a pretty close speed matchup. It seems like the Vermilion Venusaurs would have the Trick Room advantage between Regirock and Reniculus and Hatterene.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if that means we probably might not see Dusknoir out of the Blackthorn City Breloons.
Unless he went for like some very, very ballsy double Trick Room stuff.
Freaking nuts.
That would be wild.
The biggest brain play of all time.
Galaxy brain. But I mean, I've used Torkoal for what now? The last 2 or 3 seasons. Torkoal is good in Trick Room. So
yeah,
he's a monster in the Trick Room, honestly.
Just blatantly fair to say. So it looks like Fuku's team has a small weakness to rock, which doesn't seem that Breloons cover super well. The Breloons do have a pretty tough fighting weakness, but they also have a fair amount of resistance and immunities. Mm-hmm. So we could see some head games with trying to pull out fighting type moves and some switch-ins or outs with the Blackthorns.
I could see Kartana doing a lot of work, just because Kartana isn't
out of Kartana.
If he's not in Trick Room, I think Kartana might do some nasty work.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this team, it seems like Kartana could kind of rip through it in a lot of ways.
Because Kartana's a bug, right?
It's bug fighting.
Bug fighting. What a Pokemon.
Nope, grass deal. Not even close.
We are so knowledgeable about this game, man. Okay, so we're looking. So he's grass.
By defense, I've never seen Kartana used before, because he was banned last season. He's just now making an appearance.
That is true. I mean, for grass, it doesn't.
So that grass steel isn't terribly threatening to Fuku.
No, I think. Yeah.
It does put pressure on Hatterene as well as Regirock, but he's got a lot of steel resist as well.
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, other than Kartana's Beast Boost, I don't see him. I retract my statement. Yes, Dom, we are. Yes, Dom, we were very wrong on that. We told you this is going to be some.
You can't even let us get back to our corrected statements.
I know this is some top tier choices.
This is what you get for bringing in the C team on the. I'd like to see Driftbloom do something. I don't know what Driftbloom could try to get done.
Is Kangaskhan even good without its Mega anymore?
Kangaskhan has a very good move pool. coverage, as well as,
Hmm.
I believe it's a fake out.
I don't know. I've never used Kangaskhan. I just remember in.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Kangaskhan has good move pool coverage, and it's on the bulkier end of Mons. I know I tended to build it towards offensive, but it's a pretty good bulky Mon, honestly. So
Right.
maybe Kangaskhan could do some work
Does it have
here.
access to like all the punches?
I couldn't say, but I know it has access to fake out.
It's always a good move. And this
So
is.
just obviously that alone's pretty strong. And helping hand. So we could choose to try to run it with some supporting moves or with trying to use it more offensively. And I could see it being decent offensively. It seems like only Regirock would carry the fighting type move to kind of hit back at it.
Right.
And if the Vermilion Venusaurs don't want to go the Trick Room route, it could get some good max strikes in as well.
Oh, that it could. Definitely it could. So what are your
So I
predictions
guess
on
do you
this
have
one?
any, do you want to see some predictions, or do you have anything else you want to call out?
I don't think there's anything else that I would call out on this. So what are your predictions on for the
No, I
Venusaurs
think
versus the Breloom?
they're both good coaches, frankly, in my opinion. Um, I think I'm kind of leaning towards the Blackthorn City Breloons. I don't really have a good reason for it, frankly, but I think that he just has a little more offensive threats. And I think with how much psychic the Vermilion Venusaurs have, and how, given the fact that he's got 3 of them, the Blackthorn City Breloons are likely to be able to run some counters, and it's on Reniculus, Hatterene, and Indeedee Female.
Mm-hmm.
We know he's going to have stuff in the back pocket to deal with some of those threats. And then that kind of leaves Regirock as another big, scary mon. But he could do some stuff with
I mean, he could.
uh,
I'm pretty sure he could
members of
also
Park.
go the exact opposite way, and he could like.
He does have Tailwind on Archeops, but I think Blackthorn City Breloons take it 2-1.
Okay, 2-1.
I think he just has a little more flexibility in his team than the Vermilion Venusaurs do, so that makes it a little bit harder to prep against.
Right. So
What about yourself?
I don't know. This one looks like it could go a lot of different ways. So honestly, I could see it going. Um, mm, I think I agree with you. There's just a lot more. It just looks like a lot more flexibility on the Breloom versus the
You know, we even
Venusaurs.
touch on Grimmsnarl.
No, and I mean Grimmsnarl's a crazy mon.
He's a dark type. That alone puts a lot of pressure on.
So I think 2-1 Breloom as well.
Yeah.
All right, what's
All
the
right,
next one?
we'll see. The next match up is your own, the Ludicolo Rain Dancers versus the Farsighted Flygons.
We don't even need to talk about this. I beat him last season. I'll do it again.
We'll talk about it. I think one of us will talk about it.
Beat him once, I can do it again.
Well, by that logic, you'd be beating Dom a lot more often than you are.
Yeah.
So, the Flygons have that Lando.
Right.
Lando's scary, so I'm told. I used Lando I last season, and it felt like it just got bodied. But he didn't have Intimidate.
Well, Lando T is just built different in general.
He's constructed uniquely.
Extremely. Because if I'm looking at this, I really think I think I got this one.
Well, I would hope you think. At least your own.
I'm confident in my own ability.
Mimikyu is just always a scary mon.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen Latios do much.
Was Latios on somebody's team last season?
I was on somebody's team. Or maybe Latios was. I haven't seen him do much.
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of good type options, as do you. You
Yeah, I
have
think
your mascot, but I'm not sure what that does for you in the rain, frankly. I mean,
right,
he has a Zoomerol, so that could take advantage of the rain you choose to set.
right.
And Riolu's always kind of a bit of a
Riolu's a
bitch.
tricky mon to deal with.
He's good. He's got a lot of screen setters potentially. If I know a lot of people don't like to set screens just because
I mean,
if you don't have the
you're
screen,
the one who's
I'm pretty hot on screens. But that's
yeah,
because
but
I had the well, still do I guess. I still have Lele, who's just fast enough that it
right.
can generally be worth using to set a screen on, and
Yeah, I don't.
with the sake of drain, it prevents it.
Hmm.
So I mean, Benny, he has a lot of options to run Tailwind or Trick Room.
Yep.
So there's set speed advantage. So you could kind of flip-flop either way. Come on, sort it by speed.
Yeah,
I
because
think your team is faster. So it might
yeah,
be, well, your team is faster, objectively. Really,
objectively with a lot of
90%
them,
is.
they
But
are. Yeah.
Rillaboom's always scary. I think Rillaboom's very threatening to swap hurt, obviously.
Yeah,
You
that's
don't
true.
have anything to just straight change terrain like Rillaboom does.
Mm-mm.
But Benny, I think, is an erratic battler. I think that dude's skill level is a bit of a roller coaster in terms of how well he can or cannot play. Obviously, you
Right.
have beaten him before, and Cinderace can be very threatening, but I think it can get shut down pretty effectively if people plan for it or try to manage it, which I
Most do.
obviously was able to do last season, but we
Yeah.
don't know if Benny will be able to swing something too. But and just frankly, based off your battle record, I have to give it to Benny. You have historically
Wild stuff.
lost
Wild
games
stuff.
to a lot of people.
But not Benny.
Historically.
I beat Benny.
You also beat Dom. When was the last time you beat Dom? Man,
That's
I mean,
fair, but I beat Benny like 5 months ago, if that.
that's true. I think Benny is. Yeah, I think Benny was a little let down by that one. I know I was. I was like, damn it, Benny. I will say it felt like you did beat him, you played well, but it felt like Benny left a lot of doors open for that to happen. So I think it is going to be Farsighted Flagons. I'll give you a game, but I think it's the Farsighted Flagons 2-1.
Okay, that's.
Was there anything you want to comment on your own game, or do we want to move on?
We'll move on. I think I'm gonna win 2-1.
Okay.
I'm not giving it to Benny. I'm not gonna roll over on that one.
That's
Who's
fine.
next? Who's next?
I don't expect you to.
Fair enough.
All right, so now we're looking at the Noah battle, the Noah Bowl.
The Noah
Kind of feels
Bowl.
like we have to make that the game of the week just
I
based on
think
the fact that
that's.
it's the Noah Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's the. What's his team name? Evergrande X
The
Clouds.
Sirchester Centiscorches and the Evergrande X-Clouds.
All right, the Noah Bowl. Noah Bowl game of the week.
So, it seems like Beartic could really go on a bit of a tear through both Venusaur and Whimsicott.
Yep.
But there's
And
definitely threats to it.
Dracozolt.
And Dracozolt. Oh, he definitely has threats to Beartic, though. With Hitmontop.
Mm-hmm.
What else is he weak to? Rock and Steel.
He's got Steelix.
And Steelix. It's Steelix got a lot of mileage.
Steelix has been a
mileage.
staple for his team for a while. So
Very bulky. The only fire type the X-Clouds have is Arcanine. That isn't to say he doesn't have other mons who can throw some pain its way.
right.
But like we could see Rhydon be pretty effective against it as well.
Yeah, I can see Rhydon doing some work.
I think that's all it's. Oh, Steelix also has a water weakness, which doesn't really help him.
Yeah, Fuku, we talked about your battle.
You'll have to run it. You'll have to run it back.
Alrighty, you can check it out on the VOD, and it'll be up on YouTube tomorrow.
That's true.
But I do think that just off of what I'm looking at and just kind of how I'm feeling about it, I think the Evergrande X Clouds might take this one.
Do you?
I do. It's just it feels like he can counter more
That's fair.
versus what the Senta Scorches are able to do.
I will say the Stunta Scorches have speed advantage. They both have weather setters.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ninetales is slower than Alolan Ninetales, so that might give a little bit of weather priority to Noah T. And obviously, Venusaur and Sun is nothing to be ignored,
No, it is not.
as you would be familiar with.
Quite familiar with that tactic.
They both have Intimidate users. The
this
X-Clouds do have a Tailwind user and some Quash, but
yeah.
I mean, Whimsicott just brings a little more to the table in terms of priority.
Yeah, and if
Tailwind setup.
And if he can get the Beartic to kill the Whimsicott off rip, I think it goes to the X-Clouds right away.
Maybe. I feel like that's kind of discounting Dragapult a little bit too much, in my opinion, because Dragapult is very much a threat. And with using, I mean, Sableye scares me. I wanted to pick it up. I think Sableye can just do a lot of wacky things, and it can just really disrupt game plans.
Right.
I think Porygon Z could have a very effective game against the X-Clouds as well, with some good move coverage, as well as the lack of a fighting stab coming out of the X-Clouds.
Right.
But I mean, overall, the X-Clouds have very good type coverage across a lot of his team. He's got great grass coverage. He's a little weaker to poison, so that's probably going to be Venusaur's in. But even then, he has some good immunities as well as resistances to it.
Yeah,
so
but
that
I mean,
just can't be discounted. Whereas
right, but
it seems like the Senta Scorches also have very good coverage.
I think it's an even battle, but I just think the X-Clouds are gonna execute better this week. So
I feel like Noah is also. Oh man! Before I say that, did he win or lose last? Which
I
Noah
didn't
Baker.
see.
How did he do last week?
I think he lost.
Lose. He lost.
Okay.
Oh, did he lose? How do I read that? Let's just check the schedule.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think he
check
lost.
the schedule. So I think the X-Clouds take it. I think the X-Clouds are going to come out swinging, and I think they're going to win 2-0.
Yeah, I think Noah. Yeah, I think the X-Clouds are definitely looking for a bit of a turnaround after a week 1 performance. I think he expected more, so I think he's gonna kind of maybe work a little bit harder.
So what do you?
Yeah, I think he's gonna take it 2-1. I don't think it's fair to discount the.
I'm just thinking he's gonna come in and hit so hard that there's nothing the Senta Scorches are gonna be able to do. With only being able to bring 6 of those Mons, I think the X-Clouds have a better chance of beating 4 of them.
That's fair. Okay. So yeah, I got the X-Clouds 2-1. You got them 2-0.
Yep.
All right. So our next game up is the Motosoke Magmortars, which I probably butchered, versus the Bompton Beartics. All right. So I mean,
there's been a lot of talk on this match.
I think Dom's been really playing it up. I think he feels very good about his chances, so he's kind of taking this chance to really gas himself up.
Right.
I think.
Let me take a look at these teams real quick.
I absolutely think Dom's hungrier for the win.
I'll agree with that.
Dom is one of the best battlers in the league. I haven't seen very much out of the Bompton Beartics. I obviously beat him just last week. I think the Beartics do have some scary threats, but I didn't.
I think
he gets too caught on.
Yes, Justin, your battle was the first one we spoke about. You can check it out on the VOD or watch it on YouTube tomorrow. So, I think, I mean, just looking at it, Dom's team or the Magmortars team is it's nasty. It's nasty. That is a good, bulky, well spread team. Honestly, I mean, you just put Clefairy, Lapras, Metagross, and Sceptile on a team, and it's
I mean, yeah, I think the Bearticks are going to struggle with the bulk.
Yeah, I don't see that. It doesn't look like any of his mons can output the damage that would be needed. I mean, maybe Coco, but even then,
he does have weather advantage out of the Bearticks.
Right.
Setting the game would also be favorable for Lapras.
Yeah.
And the Magmortars have a lot of grass resistance.
Because he's got 2 of the Tapus.
Yeah.
He's got Togekiss, which is always a bulky mon.
Can take hits, yeah. I mean, he's got great grass and electric resistance. So that just kind of leaves the fairy option.
Right. And for what I'm assuming the core of the Bearticks is, I don't see it working well against the Magmortars.
No. I just think the Magmortars are going to be too bulky. And I just think Dom put more time into preparing for the battle, frankly.
Right. So I think...
That's an excellent question, Justin. Yes. I think the Magmortars could probably beat me. Could probably beat Mitch.
I don't know. I'm coming for Dom's neck this season.
Well, you always are. But...
Always. If I beat him, I'm taking his Switch for like 2 weeks. He just has to He's just a forfeit.
If he loses to Brandon, you might be able to take the Switch for 2 weeks.
Maybe.
But if Dom somehow loses to the Bompton Bearticks, it's going to be a morale crusher, to say the least.
I agree with that. It will be very tough.
Morale. It already kind of got knocked down from the New Orleans Pelipers. Probably can't take a beating from the Bompton Bearticks.
I'll agree with that.
But yeah, so I do think he takes it 2-0. I think he's just going to do more prep. I think he wants to win more, and I think his team has the bulk to just outlast the Bearticks. What do you got how do you got those games going? Are we going to have our first agreement? What do you think?
Just thoughts in our discussion, I would agree with you completely. But I could see the Bearticks getting 1 game, but Dom only having to win 1 game because Brandon is always late. I feel like he would.
I mean, if Brandon shows up too late and Dom takes a free win, I don't think there's a chance Brandon comes back.
Yeah. So I think, you know what, 2-0 Dom. I got Dom on this one.
Our first agreement. We got some pretty good split going on.
And if the Motorstoke Magmortars lose, don't know what we're about to do about that. That'll be a tough setup.
It's going to really hurt his plan to win 85% of his games if he drops the first 2.
Yeah.
But I definitely think he's favored in this matchup.
I agree. And I mean, we didn't even talk about Xurkitree. That thing, I don't even know what it does. I just know it's got Beast Boost like the rest of them. And Latias, like, I just think Dom's team is so good this season.
Yeah. Xurkitree is a very
I also hate Metagross. I hate it. I can't stand it.
I love Metagross, man.
I meant playing against it. If he was on my team, it'd probably be my favorite Pokemon on the squad. So
he's got a lot defensively going for him, to say the least.
Because I mean, Benny had it last season.
He did,
and Benny used it well. So I think Dom's got it though. Are we on the last matchup?
Yeah, it is New Bark United, yours truly, versus the Mudsdale Stomping Tantrums.
Oh, man. Oh, boy. I don't know why you drafted Malamar, dude. I hate that Pokemon so much.
I needed a great ball pick.
It's fair.
Is what that boils down to currently.
Right. So...
I will refrain from saying anything other than I have myself winning 2-1.
You have yourself winning 2-1. Okay. Let me write that down.
I like people taking games.
Because you don't feel as bad.
I like seeing 3-game matches. I think those game 3s.
The third game is
prime
stressful. Always stressful. Okay. Okay.
Let's hear your expert analysis on this matchup here.
Very expert analysis here. So, we have seen in the past some disgusting plays out of Porygon 2 across the last couple of Sword and Shield seasons. And pairing that with Mudsdale, like Mudsdale is, that thing is nigh unstoppable. The thing is a beast. Like we've all tried. I watched every game last season and the season before that, and Mudsdale just takes hits like he's Jiren from Dragon Ball Super. Basically, nothing touches him. He's like, you can't Oko him. And you can't 2-shot him. He's at least minimum a 3-shot kill or a 4. And just out of your team, I don't see even Milotic, I don't see taking out Mudsdale or Gudra. Let's see. I hope you have Justin. I have you beating him. I do.
I did vote Blake.
Jacob voted against you. Plus, I mean, we've seen Zapdos put in work, and I'm assuming that his G-Max is Blastoise. And we've seen G-Max Blastoise do great work too. I used it to great effect.
Oh, sorry, just say that because you had him on your team?
I've had him on my team. I've had all the Kanto starters have been on my team. So, I mean, Regigigas is cool. I don't really know much about Serena, so. And then Weavile, that's always scary. And we've seen Alolan Marowak do good things across the league. So, I really. He said, "Eat my ass, Jacob." Respectfully.
Oh, I saw.
On one game. So, I think it's going to be 2-1 Adam, because I just don't see a good way to get rid of Mudsdale.
All right, so I guess any last minute thoughts, or just chat want to have any questions they want the geniuses, the masterminds of this coach season to answer for them, because otherwise we've covered the transactions, we've gone through our matchups. Mitch, if you want to maybe read off our predictions, kind of to pull the schedule back up and read off our predictions for each match as kind of a closing note.
Let's open up the schedule. Week 2. All right, so we have Blake versus Justin for the first.
Maybe use the team names.
Right, the New Orleans Pelipers versus the Galarian Gallades. I have the Pelipers winning 2-1, and you have the Gallades winning 2-1. Next up is the Vermilion Venusaurs versus the Blackthorn City Breloons. And we both have the Breloons winning 2-1. Then we've got the Ludicolo Rain Dancers versus the Farsighted Flygons. I have the Rain Dancers winning 2-1. And you have the Flygons winning 2-1. I have been working out a little bit. Thank you, Justin. Thank you for noticing. And then our Game of the Week pick is the Noah Bowl between the Sirchester Centiscorches and the Evergrande Explouds. I have the Explouds winning 2-0, and you have the Explouds winning 2-1. Up next is the Modestoke Magmordars versus the Bompton Bearticks. And we both have the Magmordars winning 2-0.
That match is tonight at 9 o'clock, hopefully.
Yes, that match is in 15 minutes. And then the final match of the week is the Munsdale Stomping Tantrums versus Newbark United. I have 2-1 to the Mudsdales, and you have 2-1 to Newbark United yourself. You're the only team that does not have a Pokemon in its name. Kind of annoying now that
proud of it.
Kind of annoying now that I'm like going through and I'm like, I can call them the Pelipers, the Gallades, and it's like Newbark, douchebag.
I'm a Newbark. I named my team after kind of a football naming convention, given that this generation of Pokemon was kind of based around sports.
This is true.
A little football-y, so
that is
thematically appropriate team names.
That is very true, and I'll agree with you on that one.
I appreciate that.
But I think that is it for the Coaches Lounge today.
All right, we appreciate everyone who tuned in. Always happy to be hosted on Fenrit's channel. Feel free to hit that subscribe if you want to see some more Pokemon content. I imagine he'll be streaming his own battle tomorrow if you want to give a little promo for that.
I will. So we will have the Week 1 battle between the Galarian Gallades and myself at 11 p.m. if you are a night owl, or you can catch it on YouTube 24 hours later. So, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Drop a follow down here and Fenrit on YouTube for hopefully this season every match I have and other content. And that's all, and have a good night, everybody. And let's